what an ending to the Bad Batch. And seriously, just think about it for a second. After watching season after season, who here thought that we would have such a satisfying ending of the Bad Batch? This is pretty insane, and I loved it. I really loved the way it ended. It's been a while since we got that type of a wrap-up by Dave Filoni, especially in these animated shows. After watching Clone Wars Season 7, the finale, how dreadful and dark it was watching Rex cry, for crying out loud. It was pretty great to see the Bad Batch wrap up after frantically panicking who's gonna die and what's gonna happen. It just ended in a bow. It just ended perfectly. They all survived. Nobody died. In retrospect, I really feel bad now for Tech because he's the only one who didn't make it out alive. Everybody else did. Later on, we see a grown-up Omega. We see an older Hunter and presumably Crosshair and Wrecker, although we did not see them. Omega did mention them, so they are on Pabu. They are still living together with Hunter, and the entire gang is basically together living on this island. But Omega goes on to fight for the rebellion. Eventually, I hope she will meet up with Hera Syndulla, with Luke Skywalker, with Leia. There's a lot of possibilities here, and there's a lot of stories to be told still, apparently. However, there's a worry I have, and it is a 50-50 because it essentially, even in Rebels and in many other stories, we did not get to see Omega ever because she was a character created later on. Of course, we know the out-of-universe explanation, but this is the problem with all these new content, new episodes, and new series is that it adds to the canon, but the canon that we have was not being supplemented when it came out originally, because we always talk about Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels is, one of the later timelines that we have during Imperial times, and in that series, well, let's just say there's a lot of characters missing, and speculations, of course, are going to go awry when we know that, of course, why don't we see Omega during Rebels? Because it seems now, after the finale, Omega is alive, grown up and well. Hunter is alive, and a lot of characters. So this has got me to thinking, since where the hell is Ekko? Why you should be worried about Ekko, of course, is that during the Bad Batch finale, he leaves off the gang on Pabu, and he goes on his separate way, presumably to meet up with Rex. The sad part is that years later, when Omega's grown up, Hunter is older, they do not mention Ekko at all. Even Omega, who departs from the island, does not mention that she is going to meet up with Ekko or whatever. She only mentions Wrecker and Crosshair. So we know Wrecker and Crosshair are alive. We know Hunter and Omega are alive, but Ekko is not mentioned all these years later. To make matters worse, Ekko is nowhere to be seen in Star Wars Rebels, where Rex, Wolf, and Gregor are now older and meet up with Ahsoka, meet up with Kanan Jarrus, Ezra, and the rebellion is essentially starting to ramp up. So does this actually mean that Ekko is dead? He is not mentioned in the finale, in the final moments of the Bad Batch. He is not seen in Star Wars Rebels and never seen again. I'm gonna be candid with you guys, and this is the problem that I have mostly with this double-edged sword that is going on in canon, because we love these characters, we want to see them go well, and if the finale of the Bad Batch proved anything, is that, not everything has to be dark. And yes, the ending of the Bad Batch was pretty satisfying, and it gave us a hint of the future that we might see these characters again, probably. But this is constantly happening with canon now, is that we have characters that are eventually shown to be alive, even though they did not participate in these major battles or major events. So the double-edged sword, of course, is as you see with the Bad Batch, as you see with Ahsoka, as you see with Cal Kestis. The answer constantly is that they were not around. They disappeared somewhere into their own sanctuary. Now, piecing this together myself by watching what the content is showing us, and all of these episodes, all of these stories are essentially telling us that these people, all these guys, Omega, Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, Ahsoka, Cal Kestis, all these people who we do not see in the original trilogy, who we do not see in other materials pertaining to the Imperial times, they were so traumatized by the Empire that they just chose to completely absolve themselves, run away, and not participate in either rebellion activities, go up against the Empire. They just gave up. This is why we appreciate, of course, somebody like Captain Rex, who actively fought the Empire as we see during the Bad Batch. Then he made a comeback in Star Wars Rebels, and depending on what you want to believe, he even participated in the Battle of Endor. All this to say that, yes, there is a double-edged sword thing going on right now. We have new characters, we fall in love with these characters, we follow their storyline, but then there has to be this, where was he during this time? I know I'm doing it right now. I know the irony, believe me, but it is something that we need to talk about, that needs to be addressed, because it's getting frustrating to see that now, yes, these guys survived too, but they did not take place in these battles or these iconic moments. It's pretty frustrating, but opportunities are there. Maybe perhaps Omega did not take in the destruction of the second Death Star, let's say, but she might have contributed into, getting the designs, getting the entry points, spying on the Empire, something that we did not get to see firsthand, but we will get to see once an animated series comes by. This is why we're so excited. Of course, myself, I'm clamoring for a new clone series by Dave Filoni, who will show us what Rex and Ekko and the others are going through fighting the Empire. That would be just a beautiful, perfect series with ample opportunities. Think about the missed opportunities we had in this finale. Darth Vader did not show up. I was completely expecting, of course, for Rex to show up. The cavalry has arrived. I thought that these guys would show up on Tantus, save the Bad Batch, save Omega. We have a clone rebellion on our hands, and things are gotten so out of hand that Tarkin alerts Darth Vader. Darth Vader arrives. We saw that Tarkin made it to Tantus, but in the aftermath, nothing really interesting about Tarkin either. He just saw the project, he mentioned Stardust, so the funding was completely diverted from Tantus, which was now to be decommissioned and destroyed, and the funding for Stardust, aka the Death Star, was to be amped up. That's great and all, but think of how cool it would be in this new series for Rex to eventually meet up with Darth Vader, who has heard about these rebellious clones. He knows firsthand how it is to fight side by clones, so Darth Vader knows his tactics, and he goes up against them, and only to find out that one of his main foes is Captain Rex, his old clone captain and friend. Rex finding out that behind that mask is his old Jedi General, Anakin Skywalker, who he thought was dead. Beautiful storylines to still be told, and this is why I think this new series is completely crucial. In conclusion, I think that no, Ekko is not dead. They just did not mention him. And this is why I'm saying this, because mentioning all these new series that I think we're going to see Rex in, that I think we're going to see Ekko in, and a lot more clones, essentially what we have found out is that canon will be expanded, but the true moments will remain true. Luke fought Darth Vader in front of the Emperor, Luke destroyed the Death Star. There's these moments where we saw them 40 years ago, we saw them 20 years ago, we're seeing them now, but these new storylines will take place in the buffer zone, in the area outside of this key moment. Perhaps while Omega is helping Lando destroy the Death Star, Luke is fighting Darth Vader. So Luke is surrendering to the Emperor. So all of this to say there's many more stories to be told, and yeah, I can't wait.